Huh. Exploring self-awareness through shared experience. Is that the Driftwood podcast?
That's what we're about to find out. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools.
I'm Daniel the Wizard.
Howdy y'all, Fox here.
This is Driftwood Podcast. Yeah, so who is that by?
That was Rudyard Kipling, or Rudyard. Rudyard Kipling, the poem If.
Yeah, it's an excerpt from the poem If.
Mm-hmm.
And today, we're actually talking about toolkits.
Toolkits.
Yeah, we're going to give the tits on toolkits, the Driftwood tits on toolkits.
The whole kit and caboodle on tool
Tit-
tits. I mean,
tit-
tit tool kits.
Tits.
Right.
Thoughts, ideas, theories, and stories. So today,
I'm still getting used to that, you can tell.
yeah, so basically we're going to take the idea of toolkits and we're going to talk about it the Driftwood way.
Mm-hmm,
So we're going to give some thoughts, some ideas, some theories, some stories. Maybe all of those, maybe some of those, maybe none of those. Who really knows?
Get driftwoody with it.
Yeah, we're going to just driftwood with it. So number one, we're going to talk about types of toolkits.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a very, very interesting story for a toolkit that I found once.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we'll get into that in a little bit. Number two, how to acquire those toolkits.
Right.
So
Finding them. Besides finding them.
besides finding a pre-made toolkit,
Ooh, how did this get here?
how do you acquire those tools and your relationship with those tools? So
Mhm.
three, the relationship with those tools.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So boom, that's it. The Driftwood tits on
Right.
those three things. So types of toolkits, how to acquire those tools, and relationships with the tools.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So earlier, okay, this is TDP number 51. Let's just
51,
get that out of
howdy
the way.
y'all.
Yeah, we're over the half-century mark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So earlier we
Oh,
were...
not me personally.
Yeah, no, not yet. Real close, though. So we were on a hike earlier. Well, it was
Mhm.
kind of a hike. It was an impromptu hike. It had been raining, and it had stopped raining, and we're like, oh, cool, there's an equestrian trail right there. So
Mhm,
let's go.
mhm.
Let's go see what's down the equestrian trail.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we go down the equestrian trail. We come back out. We go down by the lakeside, and we're walking around by the lakeside, and we find some potential bonsais.
Right. So we actually did this prior to, was it 49? Around about somewhere there, or we might have done a live stream where we went on a little bonsai hunting expedition, and in response to which I put together a bonsai hunting kit.
Yeah, well, speaking of toolkits, the bonsai hunting kit, we didn't have it with us today.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the right kit. Well, we didn't bring that kit for that thing.
We didn't bring that kit today. That wasn't the plan. That wasn't what we had intended to do. However, had we had it today, man, there was some pretty good finds that I think we should probably try to find our way back out to check out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Anyone interested in what the whole bonsai hunting thing is, look up Yamadori. Yamadori. Yamadori.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I haven't looked it up, but I hear it's cool.
Well, that's pretty much what we were doing with that.
Yeah,
that
that's what you've said a couple of times. So toolkit, what bonsai toolkit? Obviously, that's a toolkit. But what did you decide to put in that toolkit? Because you're the one that put it together. I did not. Listen, David is the one that knows a little bit about bonsais.
A little.
I know zero.
Right.
So we're working like it's like a blind man leading a deaf man. Okay.
Right. Just pay attention.
But anyways, we're giving it a vigilant effort. We're doing what we can.
Right. And if you want to see some of that documentation, video, photography, some of the bonsai stuff, go to our Buy Me a Coffee.
buymeacoffee.com/driftwood, DRYFTWOOD. Yes, check it out. There's some pictures up there. I'm working on some video stuff that's going to be up there.
We'll be putting some more up pretty soon here.
Once I figure out how to get it on there.
Yeah, so the toolkit, again, will be featured on that. But yeah, what did I put in there was basic gardening tools you wouldn't believe. So I had loppers, sorry, I hit my mic, and some garden shears, a little garden rake, what do you call it, like little 3-prong deal.
Yeah, a little 3-fork thing to drag dirt to, like, for gardening,
out.
just for gardening.
Little, what do you call it, a trowel, a little shovel type thing. And a saw, and then some stuff to mark and to wrap roots.
Yeah, there's some tape. There's some like marking tape, like surveyor's tape. There's a hammer. I don't know if you said the
Oh
hammer.
yeah, no, hammer and chisel and pry bar in case of roots are in some rock or something.
Oh yeah, we're looking in rocks.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so that's what we were doing earlier, and we were talking about toolkits, and we were just like, man, if only we had that today, we could have acquired some of these things that we were looking at. And I realized that if only we'd been prepared to do that. And then
the counter is
that actually might have been a distraction because we were prepared to come out here and do what we're doing right now, which is recording the podcast episode.
Right.
We're actually out at the same lake we recorded 50 at, but no rainstorm this time.
Minus the rain, yes.
Minus the rainstorm. But so we came out here, and at first I was like, man, we really missed an opportunity. But the other thing is, too, is no, that might have actually been a distraction because it already took us long enough to get here to record. And imagine if we'd have been digging up some rescuing some trees from harsh environments.
Well, that is interesting because we were talking about the bonsai toolkit as a toolkit. Yet we have the recording equipment in a box, in a toolbox. But we don't really think of that as our tools that we use to record. But they is.
I didn't until today,
right?
Until today.
These are the tools of our trade.
Yeah, so only when we were talking about doing the show, and I was talking about, man, if only we had, that was, and I was like, but we did bring the right tools.
We did bring the right toolkit for what we intended to do.
And we brought some additional tools for the same thing that maybe to accommodate something else if something with that came up. So we were prepared. We were prepared to do what we set out to do, right? So we had the proper toolkit. I felt like I missed out at first, though, because I didn't have the right toolkit.
Well, that's interesting because the need for the toolkit arose in a change in scenario, right?
Yes.
So initially the scenario was we're going to a lake, we got the recording toolkit.
It's going to be pouring down rain.
Right. So then the situation changed to, we can actually walk out here and look, and then we saw things that changed our perception, things that might have needed a different toolkit.
Yeah. Yeah, essentially. So
I don't know where I was going with that. I was just describing to the listener.
All right. So to get onto the thing, so types of toolkits. Look, there's so many different types of toolkits. What are some things that come to mind when you think of toolkits? Just generic toolkits that exist. Like we have the bonsai one that you created, right? There's other things. Like what about for your car?
Right.
Like the safety, the roadside thing. David felt I was being irresponsible, so he put together a roadside kit for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure I was being irresponsible because I'm not sure the jumper cable's in there, but I think you.
I have jumper cables.
Okay, that's a good thing.
I used them. I used them to jump your car off the other day, actually.
Oh yeah, I probably did need it. Yeah, I can imagine so.
So the toolkits. What are some other toolkits you can think of?
Well, I mean, every trade has a toolkit. So an electrician's toolkit, a plumber's toolkit, a carpenter's toolkit. Those are job-specific toolkits. Well,
okay, so essentially everything comes down to a specific type of job or what you're trying to accomplish for what toolkit you're going to use. Because we brought a toolkit for the podcast. We didn't bring a toolkit for bonsai hunting. We came out here to do a podcast, not to bonsai hunt. So do you think that maybe we would have over-prepared if we would have brought the bonsai stuff too? Maybe?
Possibly, yes. Considering we had a phone call inquiring as to our
what we
progress,
were doing.
yes.
Yeah, what we were doing, what the progress was. We've had a couple of those phone calls, actually.
Oh, I missed out.
Okay, so the nuts and bolts of it is all of the toolkits, you have to acquire tools for them.
Right.
So with the bonsai toolkit, specifically, since we brought that one up, with the tools that are in there, what are some ways that you can get those tools?
Well, yes, getting them, buy them, make them. But you have to know what it is you're going in to buy or what it is you're going to make. So, yeah, you first got to know what the tool's supposed to do.
What is the tool supposed to do?
Well, in the case of the bonsai kit, the loppers were for thick branches, the pruners were for roots, the saw, did I say the saw? Yeah, no, the saw was for thicker roots or thicker branches, and the hammer and chisel was, to remove rock and a pry bar likewise. So each thing had a pre-envisaged purpose.
All right, so to get down to the nuts and bolts of the entire thing. So we're describing all these different toolkits. We're describing how to get the tools for the toolkits. We're eventually going to talk about the relationships with those toolkits, but essentially the types of toolkits that you can get, some of them are pre-made. Some of them you have to put together yourself. Some of them you find.
Right. Yes.
One of the ones that I found was a toolkit, a toolbox. It was a Stanley black and yellow toolbox.
Plastic or metal?
Plastic.
Okay.
Plastic, you know, for home use.
Sure.
And I think I'd seen the toolbox before, if I remember correctly, but it was me and a couple of friends, so I'm really not sure. So, but anyways, at this point, the toolbox was actually unlocked. So the treasure chest was unlocked.
Was it usually locked?
I don't know. I think so. Now that I think back about it, I think that we'd seen it there before, but it was always locked. Okay. So this was at a friend of mine. I was a teenager. This was at a friend of mine's house. Okay. This was not at my house or anybody I know personally. Maybe I do know them personally. I'm not going to get into that. But anyways, so we opened the toolbox. Of all the things that you think could be in a toolbox, there was a box full of dildos.
Wow.
All shapes and sizes, colors, functions, all of it.
I'm glad you didn't say rattlesnake. I mean,
well, if there was holes poked in it, I think a rattlesnake would have been feasible. I don't know. Maybe I hadn't been exposed to those types of things yet, and it really, man, it's hung with me for so long.
So let me get this right. So there's a toolbox. It was unlocked. You opened it, and it was like what, a dildo too? Like lots of them?
Like 12.
Kit?
Like 12, and not just those. There was other things too.
Like different wrench sizes and things.
Yeah, kind of like that. Different shapes, sizes, colors.
Multi sockets.
Multi-headed, just different things. Also some, lubricants, just the whole kit. It was for safekeeping, okay?
So it was definitely a put together kit.
It was definitely, but I found it. I left it. I did not touch anything in there because they had a glisten to it that I wasn't sure if it was freshly used or not,
Oh, boy.
I'm not really sure. I don't remember if it was dark or light outside, man. There's a whole lot of memories that escape me, but I remember that.
So how do you think that toolkit was acquired before you found it?
I think years of testing and seeing.
Okay.
And I imagine that a lot of those things in there weren't regularly used. I feel like the things at the bottom were the things that just weren't used so much. But maybe on a rainy day, you have to... that one thing I know it's somewhere, digging in the bottom of the toolbox.
When you need to do that one specific thing that you don't need to do very often. But
just add a day.
You had a tool for it last time. But where did you leave it?
Oh, it's at the bottom of the toolbox.
Yeah.
It's in the toolbox where they're all at.
Just dig down.
It's in the dick box. Anyways, so that was a toolkit that I found.
It makes me wonder what the job was they would need to get done.
There's only two kind of jobs that I think that you would need a toolbox full of dildos. Two. One of them would be a dildo salesman.
Sure. Inconspicuous.
Maybe you do those
Nice.
pure romance parties, those types of things.
Sure,
those little at-home parties.
And then you stand them all up on the desk.
The suction. The only other reason that I think that you would do that is if you were a skilled tradesman. Going around providing a service.
Now you said,
and you need a different tool to do this.
Now, when I asked you how did that toolkit come about, you said through years of testing or something, or
just testing and seeing.
Right. So wouldn't you just end up with one, like the best one?
No, because different strokes for different. Man, there's some days there's sun shining and some days there's not.
Right.
Sometimes beads are necessary. I don't know, man.
Right.
Different strokes for different folks. What does that say? What is that you say all the time when I say that?
Different horses for different courses.
Yeah.
What
I think
what
you
was
said
that? Different hose for different flows.
Different flows for different hosts.
There we go.
That was the one.
It's out there now.
I can't believe it. I didn't realize it was that bad.
Oh my God! I think I know that kid. There's a family down by a lake, and I think I know that kid.
People watching. I'm not gonna state the obvious thing that I want to say right now.
No, but he is. That's how I recognize him. he has a severe learning disability. That's how I recognized him.
I was going to say something else, but
that's what it is.
That's what it is. It's not the other thing.
I think he's too young to be on meth.
No, the other thing, the obvious thing.
Oh, that obvious thing. No, she's still having difficulty keeping up.
I'm sorry. We're not describing anything. We're just making stupid jokes.
Anyhow, so back to not back to your...
This rain day turned into a humid ass sunshiny day. We're in the truck again.
Mm-hmm.
We were expecting it to be raining a little bit, not so humid. We saw steam coming off the concrete earlier.
Yeah, steamy, man.
Coming off this, so it really changed the day a little bit. Gave it a different atmosphere. But anyways, the whole point of bringing all this stuff up, the whole point for me anyways, was I really want to talk about what people do in their lives to have tools, like the tools to do like the stuff that they need to do, whether it be a job,
right,
or whether it be the things that you pursue in life.
For pleasure, yeah.
For pleasure. So the toolkit, it's not just predicated to physical like tools that you go to like tighten up bolts or something like that, right? Or sawing things. Those are applicable tools for those things.
Wait, we're not going to talk about tools like this is a Driftwood home improvement show? What's his name? Alan?
I think Home Improvement. Okay, so that was Tim Allen. Yeah, Tim Allen.
Yeah.
Tim the Toolman Taylor, the character on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Tim the Toolman Taylor. That is part of, but see, so between David and I, you have to understand that we are basically tradesmen, right? Most of the things that we've known how to do has been with tools. You need tools to do the things that we know how to do usually.
Yep. Even when you're trading bullshit.
Even when you're trading bullshit.
Yep.
So the tools, like I did carpentry work for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I did some welding, you know, different things to do different things, right? And the tools required, those things were just vastly different. And we always talk and we translate like this idea of if you listen to a couple of our other episodes, you'll see that we often like talk about a toolkit or a backpack, or we always talk about a kit or
survival kits.
Yeah, survival, being prepared, just being prepared. And this isn't about necessarily survival preparedness, but that is part of it.
Well, a toolkit definitely does tick the box of having the thing you need when you need it.
So what did you describe a toolkit as earlier? What was that you said earlier? You said
oh yeah, so yeah, it ties into the needing when you need a toolkit is when something changed or is about to change. So what a toolkit allows you to do is to affect.
It allows you to create something.
Allows you to create something, yeah.
Yeah, to make something that wasn't there, or to do something that wasn't there.
Right. To interact, to interface with the changing situation.
Yeah. So you described earlier that like creatives or even people in general, like they need like tool. Like if you don't have tools, you can't create anything.
Right.
You can't do anything.
Right. Yeah, you're not going to be much of a sculptor without a hammer and a chisel or a whatever tools you use to mold clay with. You know, you can use your hands, sure.
What about a rock chiseler? Think about those statues, those Greek statues and stuff like that. Could you imagine doing one of the, do you know how much patience, man, that could go so wrong so quickly.
Imagine doing it without tools.
It'd still be a fucking rock.
Spit and polish.
It'd still be they'd still be polishing it. Oh my god, that would take so long. It would work though.
I know what we should do. We should sell turd polishing kits.
Turd polishing kits. How do you polish a turd? You just put a bow on it. You don't polish it. You just sell turd bows.
Turd bows.
Wow, we're really getting off in the weeds on this one. So anyway, the different types of toolkits and how we always relate all of the things that we do down to different toolkits. We try to reduce everything down to what tools do we need. And even starting with this podcast more recently, it's like what tools do we need to be effective at doing what we're trying to do.
Even with the marketing, media.
Yeah, and a lot of the thing. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like Instagram can be a great tool to promote yourself. For instance, that's a tool.
Yeah, so
fulfills a function.
Yeah, the marketing and stuff like that. Some of the other tools are the equipment, the things that you use. But other tools are knowledge. right?
Sure.
So the other tools that we rely on, we've done this long enough now, though, that when something's not going the way that we need to, we know how to adjust, right? We've acquired the skill, which is a tool, to be able to maneuver different things, and oftentimes this podcast is emulated real life for us. Like the things that we talk about, the things that are going on, are usually what's going on in our life. The things that we're discussing, it's what's really going on. And whenever we're trying to reduce down all of these things to like a toolkit or something like that, what I often find is it's really difficult if you don't know exactly what you're trying to do.
Right. You said knowledge is a tool, but before this we said, how do you choose a tool? You need to know how to choose a tool, right? So basically, you need to know how to choose knowledge, or how to get knowledge, how to what?
You have to know how to attain knowledge. You have to, that's part of the problem that I think is with like a lot of the schooling and stuff like that, a lot of learning. We have so much knowledge available to us. Man, we've forgotten how to attain, how to learn it, how to receive it, how to just take in knowledge, because it's available. Everything is available to all of us.
With the internet, yeah, pretty much.
And so anything that I want to know, I can know it.
Right.
Like, seriously, anything that I want to know, I can know it, as long as it already exists in knowledge.
Right. So is there a process to that?
I think there is a process to that.
Right.
Are you asking me what the process is?
I'd like you to elaborate if you think you have something to say about it.
Okay, so the process, I think, would be to identify what it is you're trying to do. So the process to identify that, I don't know that there's a process to identify. Okay? Because oftentimes maybe it's a problem that needs physical tools. Maybe you just have self-awareness, I think, is the best way to identify.
Sure.
You have to know what you're capable of. You have to know what you don't know, what you can make up for, where you can make up for that at. You just have to know who you are before you can use any tools adequately.
Right.
Sure, you can use tools and you can get them to work, but until you know how to use the tool properly, you're not going to get the most out of the tool.
So really what you need to do in order to get knowledge as a tool is have a set of questions. Right.
Knowing how to ask questions,
right.
Knowing what questions to ask.
Because you just said it. You just made a bunch of questions like, what tool do you need? How do you figure? So you're already setting up these bunch of questions in as a prerequisite to getting the knowledge.
So you might be able to just have yourself a list of questions, of prepared questions, like what is this doing? So, So each tool has to have a function, right? If you don't know what the function is, that takes a question. Do I know what this function is? Do I know what it's supposed to do? Does it do what I'm trying to get it to do? And if not, move on. If it is, how?
Right. Yeah. You need to know the function, because when I asked you earlier, like you as a tradesman, or when you ended in wearing the tradesman hat, so to speak, how do you put together a toolkit? And you basically said that you think about the job, what needs to be done in what order, right? Something to that effect?
Yeah, you have to determine the order the process is. What's the priority? What has to happen before the next thing happens? So then you have to, like if you don't know how to build a house, you may not know which process happens first. But if you do know how to build a house, you would know that it's a different process from start. The first thing that happens is completely different skill than the last thing that happens. And it's not the same people that do the whole thing. Not usually anyways. If you can do all of it, you're probably pretty skilled. And you've spent a lot of time learning.
And you're probably 90. You can't do it anymore because you're too old.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing too, right? So, but if you understand if you don't understand the process, you're really handicapping yourself and you're going to fail. You might get it right a couple of times. You might get lucky a couple of times, but more often than not, you're not going to get what you could get out of it.
We're still on putting together the toolkit, right? Still on choosing tools.
Yeah, just choosing tools. Because the consideration that has to be necessary is you don't want to overload yourself and carry too much and get in the way of things, but you also want to have adequate backup just in case something does happen. You want to prepare for a certain amount of variables. You have to think about the things that are the most likely to happen and the things that are the least likely to happen, and choose your tools accordingly. First, you have to determine, let's say you're framing. You have to determine what tools you're going to need. You're going to need something to cut the wood. You're going to need something to put the wood together. So however the process is that you choose to do that, those are the tools that you need. You could use a saw to cut. There's multiple different types of saws. There's hand saws, electric saws. Literally, there's so many different saws.
And then glue it.
You could glue it. You certainly, if you're just building like a cabinet or a little box or something like that, you seriously could just glue it and clamp it together. And that may be enough. You could drill some dowel holes, put it in, whatever. But if you're doing framing carpentry or whatever, you probably use a nail gun and all of that stuff. So
a tool appropriate to the task.
Yeah, you would want to use the tool that best accomplishes what it is you're trying to accomplish. For whatever the goal is, whatever the end goal is. It has to be part of the end goal as well. Because if you're going to be putting framing together using brackets, that's going to get in the way of drywall. So you can't use brackets. You have to toe nail, like 45-degree nail into stuff like that, right? You can't use brackets because then that gets in the way of the other building materials. So you have to know the process that comes after also, at least a little bit, enough to know that this might get in the way of that.
So...
Damn, that's a lot to consider.
That's a lot of process there. So for the listeners, can we take it out of the metaphorical and bring it into the practical? As like, so how do you do that? Like, first of all, maybe we need to choose something that we can focus on as far as what kind of kit are we trying to put together here? What is the purpose of our toolkit? Our metaphorical.
Let's try to identify just a generic life toolkit. Like how we can get through our everyday lives. Our roadside, our emergency thing in the car. If something comes up, how do we deal with it? That toolkit. So I think if we can identify the specific things within that, I think it'll help us have a happier life, healthier life, all of that shit, right?
Sure.
But part of that in acquiring the toolkit is getting it wrong.
Sure. Sometimes it's not the right hammer. Should use a ball peen instead of a sledge.
Listen, a mallet is still a hammer.
Sure.
But if you try to drive a nail with a mallet, it may not work out so well.
Depends
on the kind of mallet.
Depends on the kind of mallet. Rubber mallet could be fun.
Also, if you're going to try to take dents out of metal, you don't want to use a metal hammer.
Well, you might want to put new dents in at the same time. Depends what your objective is.
What are you going for the, what is that, beaten bronze look?
Yeah.
Or hammered bronze. It's called hammered bronze. The sinks, the sinks has the hammered bronze, in case you guys didn't know. So the metaphorical stuff with the building. So a life toolkit. I think one of the things, actually every toolkit, some may argue with me, but every toolkit, no matter the life or not, I think you need a way to journal things. I think that's the first place that everything should start with. Somewhere to gather thoughts. Because I think the most important thing of any toolkit is the knowledge of the toolkit.
Yes, and for us, as far as the podcast goes, since we've started taking notes in a notebook, compiling them, our material, our composure, all of it has become so much better.
We think.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
In our view of ourselves, I think so.
Well, certainly when I listen to these I'm telling you, I'm a fan of my own podcast. It's the weirdest thing to say, but I'm a fan. I like listening to it after we've released it, so that way, because usually I feel like I get something out of it.
Usually I listen to it as soon as possible after we've recorded, so I can see if there's anything really cringy in it that I might have to explain away.
Or apologize for.
Or apologize for, yes, if it's that cringy. But usually I find myself laughing within the first 5-10 minutes. So
I don't know they're going to laugh at this one in the first 5-10 minutes.
Nah, I mean, this is not laughing. It's not laughing.
Well, it kind of is, because think about life and its toolkits. Humor is part of it. You have to be able to see the obvious things that are silly, that are just like, wow, wow, here we are. Here we are. But like I said, a journal. I think a journal is the first thing that everybody should have. And if I'm going to challenge everyone listening, send us a picture on Instagram. Tag us on Instagram of your journal.
Right.
Yeah. Tag us in your journal. See what your journal looks like. I'll put a picture of my journal up there as well. I'm going to have a bunch of them.
Which one?
We have like show journals. There's so many. I have so many different notebooks floating around. So many. Like I said, I'm really serious about this journaling stuff, though. The journaling thing, I think, has helped me to prioritize things. It's really helped me to identify things that were usually just passing thoughts. And whenever I'm able to put down those passing thoughts, man, they usually bud into something a little bit more intelligible.
In time, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, most of the time, probably not, because I have a lot of notebook pages I haven't reread also, So,
sure.
But as far as a life toolkit, I would say the first thing is a journal. What do you think?
I think so, with in mind that describing a toolkit as something allows you to create or make something or change something Yes. I've lost my train of thought.
Do you think a journal is necessary for a toolkit?
Yes.
Not even a journal, just a way to write things down.
A way to record.
A way to record. Yes. Think about Lois and Clark.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the whole artist thing. Right. So, as that being a creative tool, something a lot of creatives or branches of creative say is have a notebook with you. Have something to jot down ideas, because you can't sit around waiting for inspiration to strike. Inspiration strikes when it wants to, and if you don't write that down, you might lose it. So always have that with you to,
You know what? You said inspiration. I want to say something. I said this like 37 times earlier while we were walking around.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so inspired by the things that I see now. Like my view, the way that I look at stuff, like with us going and looking at the bonsai and doing all that stuff. Man, I'm really inspired by the way things look to me now. Like just how I can see not what's there. Actually, I think I can see what's really there. I can see really better what's there than I would say most people can. Because I feel like I see something different than what most people see. Because of my lens, my experience, the way that I've gone through things. And now my perception, my view on life, my view on the world even, it's just different. So now when I look at the things, they just look different.
Well, yes, and they will, because you have new tools. So say you didn't have the particular tools that we're going to talk about, and something happens, say a pipe bursts in your house. To you, without those tools, that looks like a burst pipe. With the tools, looks like something you can fix.
That looks like a small problem.
Yeah. Patch that up in like 5-10 minutes, maybe 15, but whatever.
I don't think I can identify a toolkit specifically right now for the life thing. And the reason why I can't identify that is because I think I'm still in the process of fully identifying specifically which ones I need all the time and which ones are not. You know what I mean? Like,
well, maybe we can give some clues as to what are we looking for? What kind of tools are we looking for?
Here's the other thing. This is something I want to point out. As you grow, as you go on, some tools are no longer needed. Now, I want to point this out. This is very important. So whenever you get better at what you do, you need different tools to do that job better. Right? So the tools, the beginner tools, the ones that you had to start with, they did the job well enough for you to learn it. But they don't show the expertise. They don't show the level that you know it at. So you have to get something that helps you better produce to your skill level. Because if you have a hammer, for example, I don't know that there's a beginner hammer, but there's definitely lesser quality hammers. But there's hammers that cost $100 plus dollars. Just a claw hammer.
Yep.
$100 something dollars.
Oh yeah, titanium.
But you can go buy one with a wooden handle for $5. Wooden handle for $5.
Sure.
See what I'm saying? Like, so there's a big variable there. And if you use that to make your money, you're gonna want something that's quality, that's good. It's gonna be something that's long lasting, I guess. My phone keeps going off. Sorry, I should have put it on silent.
Sure.
But so your tools change. You have to get different tools because you progress through the course. You progress through life. You progress. Think about it like a video game. Even you progress through. So you talked about the other day when you get your first weapon. You know, sometimes you, like if you're playing an RPG.
Oh, right.
The first weapon that you get when you first start the mission, you try your best to hold on to that till the end if you can. Right. So, but the thing is, it doesn't become useful after a certain point. It's just more a memento at that point.
Right. Yeah.
So sometimes those things take up space in your storage.
Yeah, I think and in real life, sometimes I do hang on to particular tools to remind me of something I'd learned while I used that tool.
That tool just became a different tool, though. It's no longer the tool that it was. It serves a different purpose.
Yes. So for instance, this past year, has it been a year? So a dear friend of mine passed away, and I inherited a lot of tools from him. So now I'm sifting through them gradually, and I have this whole bunch, putting together different toolkits, separating electrical from plumbing tools, and so on and so on. It's definitely highlighted to me the difference in quality of tools. As far as I going through the bunch of tools, I can see tools that I would have used 10, 20 years ago, which now to me that's no longer a suitable tool, because I have something better. I know something better to get the same job done, or.
Look, I understand for some people it might be a little difficult to follow as far as us relating to things as tools, but you have to understand most of our lives, all of our lives, even you guys, are it's tools or how we operate through whatever you choose to call it. We're calling it tools and a toolkit. But the reality is these are just things that help you get through life. These are just things that help you survive. Right. They help you get to, hit my mic, get to a certain point and to create a better situation, to build you a better house, to do all of those things.
Well, a real life example, for instance, I'm sure we've all heard it. If we're old enough to have been kids at some time, we've all heard this. Just count to 10. Just close your mouth and count to 10. And you know, basically that is supposed to give you that space, the time, the calm down, the cool off. But that's a tool. That's a tool you can use in a stressful situation. Just count to 10.
That reminds me, you know what I've been doing with my kids? It's been working really well. It's even with coaching, I just make them just take a deep breath, feel your chest get big. Go with me, hold it. Let it out real slow. Same way you brought it in, let it out real slow. And then I just do that with them a couple times. So I'm just making them focus on taking that breath in, you're trying to get rid of all of the other things. You're trying to find something to ground them.
So basically like the fundamental of meditation.
Meditation. Yeah. You know what? That reminds me. We have a bunch of tools because we use different things throughout our lives. But I wrote down a note here. Yoga, camping, hiking, meditation. They're all tools.
Right. And you referred to books and music as well.
You know what? Yeah, books. So something that I didn't really take seriously for a lot of my life because, who needs books? That I've found really valuable recently, within the last couple years. And it has been one of the most valuable tools for me is the ability to read. To get books and get information. It's all there. Everything that I want to know about the things that I can know, it seems as though most of it's already there to at least ignite the thought, the conversation, the start. Me reading books like Essentialism by Greg McKinnon, just giving me a different way to look at life than the one that I learned. You know, I learned how to live life a certain way. I had acquired tools to be able to survive the situation that I was in. But oftentimes you and I talk about how those things that we acquired, that situation that I was in, the things that survived me there, that allowed me to survive there, going somewhere else, they actually were the problem. Because it wasn't applicable to that situation. The things that I'd learned and that I'd known. Tool. Yeah, no, they were damaging tools. They weren't fixing anything. You know, it was like trying to spray something down with water and it freezing. You know, you can't do.
If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning. I'd hammer in the evening.
Yeah, so how do you acquire tools for toolkits? I think the best way to answer that generally, the best way to acquire tools, I think I just jumped there, but to acquire tools would be to use tools. Find different ones, use them, get an idea, ask somebody, hey, what tool did you use to do that? Okay, let me go see if that tool works for me. Now that one didn't work for me. Let me see if I can find another tool, or let me read something that gives me the information that at least sets me on the right path. Because sometimes there's not someone to show you or tell you. There's not a mentor. There's not somebody that's going to be there to hold your hand or guide you. Some people don't have fathers. Some people don't have mothers, or that, whatever that is.
And some don't have eyes to see, and some don't have ears to hear. Anyway.
Yeah, but sorry, I'm going off on a little bit of a tirade with this whole toolkit. This is something serious to me. It's something that, I don't know, it's taken precedent in my life because it's allowed me to, I don't know, be a better parent, be a better husband, be a better friend, just be better.
Well, I'll tell you what, recently I've been getting more into, I guess you would say, freehand woodworking. So it's not really furniture making, it's not carpentry, it's not framing, it's none of the kind of standard measure straight cuts. It's whittling, carving, that kind of thing. Been really getting into that, and I've been looking for tools with which to do that. So, what do you think? Tools. Where have I always gone for tools? Home Depot, Lowe's. Those are two big hardware stores here in the US, by the way, big chains. Sometimes Walmart, whatever. The standard kind of place. So I've been looking for whittling tools, for carving tools. Yeah, maybe not quite.
Very small selection,
and not quite what I'm looking for. So then recently I discovered this woodworking store. It's like, old school woodworking. The employees alone tell you that this is old. This is an old school place. Very overpriced. Wonderful, wonderful. Love it. But no, having then gone there and bought some of those overpriced tools showed me the things I was now able to do. So that was kind of a reverse thing where I didn't know what the job was, but I knew there was a tool available to do certain types of things. And once I got it and started playing with it, using it, so if I push it, it's better than if I pull. This angle is better than this angle. A little bit is better than a big chunk. Once I got to playing using the tool, now I have a better idea. And the next whittling knife I get, it will be slightly different shape and a different style, because I know that will do a slightly different thing.
So you can see what you can get out of it.
Mm-hmm. And that's been
it does something.
Right. And that's been really useful to me, personally speaking, in my personal growth the last few years. Because my primary tool kit, for the majority of my life was one of invisibility, of covert, of infiltration, of basically being a non-presence. Those were my skills. Causing the least ripples as possible and going as unnoticed as possible, which, well, in practical terms means you become a very obliging or isolated person, or probably both. So now this idea of like, okay, so those are the tools I were using to do my work previously. Now I'm thinking, okay, so there's these other tools like agency, like assertiveness, like decision, conscious decision making. Just the concept of a goal-oriented life, you're having your own goals. Those really tools and gadgets, thinking in those terms, but they've allowed me to really change how I'm interfacing with life, changing actually who I am.
So you realize that the tools that you were having, they had lived their life.
Yes.
And you needed new tools to continue on.
Yes, I'm no longer a carpenter / handyman / jack of all trades. I'm now a goal-oriented, actively choosing my existence person.
Yeah, you have intent. You're not at the whim of other people. And I don't think I am either, man. I actually think it's caused a lot of friction in my life, but I actually welcome the friction because they're mad that I'm taking charge of my own life.
Yes. You will soon see who the leeches are when you pull your arm out of the swamp.
Yeah, and the reality is, I've learned that I can't even blame those people.
No, not really. I mean, if you start messing things up, they're going to have to change their toolkit, and that's kind of a nuisance for some people. And
we've discussed this in an earlier episode about, like, me specifically knowing that I change people's reality because I'm there. But everyone changes people's reality when they're present. Like, it's just one of those things, right?
Certainly. But sometimes, like, what it is for, maybe I don't want to point the finger specifically at you, but for personalities such as yours, sometimes you come in and you change the reality, yes, but sometimes you come in a little too bright. And then people who are not wearing sunglasses, they're kind of taken aback by that. But again, then they're confronted by this situation. It challenges them. Do you change that, or do they try to change you back to being less bright?
Yeah. And the other thing, too, you just said challenge. It keyed something up in me. One of the ways, I actually think one of the most important ways to get better at anything is to challenge yourself.
Of course.
So I know James has talked about in the past about like competition and stuff like that. And I've offered counters, but I don't actually have a problem with competition itself. It's the healthy competition I like. And there's a certain thing as healthy competition that's separate from all of the other things about the winner and stuff like that. It's about competing, challenging to be better than you were. Because you're not competing against anybody but yourself. Can you complete it? Can you complete it better than you did last time?
Right.
It's one of those things that you measure yourself against yourself. That's another tool. Measuring yourself against yourself and nobody else. So that could be another tool for the life skills toolkit, as a journal and the ability to measure yourself against yourself. Because I don't think most people know how to do that. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but I didn't know how.
Yeah.
I only knew how to shit on myself and how to break me down. I knew how to destroy me. I knew how to break me.
I think it was yesterday. We were discussing the idea of a mental health toolkit, and you said, "Well, what would you need in a mental health toolkit?" And I jokingly said, a magnifying glass and a needle, and the punchline, of course, is so you can get a real good look and pierce that pussy,
Yeah. So I don't know. So all of this stuff about the toolkit, the backpack, we wanted to address the toolkit thing, right? Reality, what it all comes down to for me, and I think for Driftwood as well, correct me if I'm wrong, David, is essentially every single thing that we do, you have to have a plan for it, and you have to be able to acquire the tools to do the plan. So some of that means you figuring out how to do it. The other part of it might be you finding somebody that does know how to do it. And that's what we're learning with the podcast, because me, I've always been somebody that I want to do everything myself. I want control. I want to touch everything that moves. And I didn't think it was a control thing, but now that I look at it, I realize I wanted the outcome to be exactly the way that I wanted it, and the only way I could make that happen is if I did everything. That's not how efficient systems work.
Generally not. No.
Efficient systems that are complex do not work that way, because anything that breaks on that, if I break, none of it gets done.
Right. And the thing is, it's like multi-tools. A tool that does everything doesn't do anything very well.
Yeah, but a multi-tool is a tool that I think is necessary in most toolkits. Some variable tool, something that's there for the things that are unaccounted for, something that just in case. It's not really good at it, but it'll get me by, right, in a survival situation or something like that.
Right.
So in the toolkit in general, with life, with tools, everything, you have to be able to identify what it is you're trying to accomplish, number one.
Yes.
Number two, you have to be able to identify the tools that will best help you accomplish that. But the only way you're going to know how to do that is to be able to know who you are. So you know what tools you can use.
Right. The tools have to be appropriate to you.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things, that you mentioned earlier.
Like, again, with the hammer thing, it's all very well saying, oh, the best tool for this job would be a 20-pound sledgehammer. Well, guess what? You can only lift 8 pounds, so you ain't doing that. So you need to choose a different option here. Yeah,
what are you trying to get out of it? Some people may prefer to do carpentry work with all hand tools, all hammering nails and hand saws.
No nails. And then
I don't know, maybe the Amish. That's their way of doing it, right? They mortise joints, things like that. Everything is timber frame or stick frame. No, it's stick frame. Timber frame. Sorry, stick framing is with the 2x4s and stuff. But timber framing, they don't use, well, sometimes they do, I think now, but they typically use hand tools, things like that. Everything is made to go together. The time is spent so that you don't have to force it and beat it. It goes together like a puzzle piece.
Like a toolkit.
Takes a little bit longer to do it that way in all of those things. So if you're going for efficiency, there's different tools to do it, but it's what are you trying to get out of it? Right, there's a faster way to do it, but is it stronger to do it faster?
Right.
Is that may not always be the best way. Anyways, there's always things to consider. The last thing that I want to touch on all of these things and wrap it all up together before we get to the reading is number 3. This is the most important thing for me, I think, is the relationship with your tools. Because you've talked about the sentimental value of the specific, the physical tools that you have or whatever. I talk about like books, yoga, meditation, or whatever. I have a relationship with each of those things. Every single tool that I use, I have a relationship with.
Right.
And I have to give that relationship its due. Right? If I'm doing yoga and I'm expecting something out of yoga, I have to work with yoga. I have to be doing it. I have to be active in it. I have to be learning more. I have to be challenging myself to get better at it, to get the effect, the benefit. Because if you keep doing it at the same level, anything, you're no longer being challenged, and you'll start missing the small things because you're just I know how to do this, I know how to do that, I know how to do this, I know how to do that. It's just muscle memory at that point, right? And you're not really learning anything, so you have to challenge yourself to be able to expand that to make it better. It's just, what's your relationship with it? What's your relationship with your tools?
Well, like I said, some of them I just keep around out of sentimental value, or not really sentimental as such. It's not really a like a hardy yearning type thing. It's more of a signpost, more of a reminder, like a post-it note on the fridge saying, "Don't forget to get milk." Remember when you learned this lesson. Remember when this tool no longer was the best tool, when you learned through this experience that this was a better tool. So sometimes, yeah, I keep them around. But the thing with keeping tools around that you're not using actively is they can rust. You still need to maintain.
Because you have a relationship with it. You have to maintain it. If you're going to keep it, you got to take care of it.
If I didn't care about it, I wouldn't bother maintaining it. Yeah, so yeah, I do care about my tools.
Well, no, just in general, even like books and just attaining knowledge and so on and so forth. But the one thing specifically about your relationship with your tools that I want to point out. Go ahead.
I was thinking about how important my tools are to me. A lot of times in my life, I've come into conflict with other people over my tools. You touch my knife. You touch my knife.
You picked my CD up in broad daylight and you scratched it.
Listen, fairly recently, I've had an incident of a variety of tools and equipment leaving the sphere of my influence, let's shall we say.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, no longer in the sphere of my influence. And it's really upsetting. It's really, really freaking upsetting, because when it's an important tool, that means I can no longer do the job that tool did for me, and so that takes something not only from me, as a physical thing, the tool, but also takes away ability to do things.
Yeah, it handicaps you. It limits what you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
If you know that you have a tool but you can't access it, then what good is that tool?
Try measuring 16 foot lengths with a 3-foot yardstick.
Take you a while.
Yeah.
And then you got to do some maths about like halves, and
you got to make sure your lines are straight as well. You're not adding like an inch over the whole.
Yeah, and you're not wiggling it. You're not like siding and shorting yourself.
Well, it'll even out.
It'll even out. Yeah, the terrain, the going up and down. Yeah, that's a terrible way to measure 16 foot with a 3-foot yardstick. That's what 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and then you got to.
Well, you got your first length. Good job.
Then you got to cut. Then you got to cut that yardstick. You got to cut a foot off of it.
Yeah.
And then put that foot on the end so you have the proper length. And you take that back and you take that whole thing.
Yeah.
Not doing it. It'll work though. If that's all you had, it'll work. It'll definitely work. Or you can just take a rope and measure how long you want it, like mark it, and then take the rope. You don't need to know exactly. You just need to know how to do maths and all that. Anyways, one thing that I wanted to point out, actually the main thing about the relationship with your tools.
Oh, yeah.
You can't allow your tools to identify you.
Yes.
You have to identify your tools. Your tools cannot identify you. You can't.
Sir, is this your dildo? It was found in your luggage.
I am not my tool, sir. No, your tools.
Fight Club reference for anyone who.
Your tools cannot identify you. So, let's say like, I don't know. I don't even know an example. I had some examples earlier, but you can't allow the things that you use to get through your life to be your identifier.
Right.
Those are separate from your identity. Those tools, those things that you use, they are part of you, yes, but they are separate from your identity. And I think people need to draw a line with their identity. And so one thing about people and words. Using words, getting mad at them choosing to use a word to identify themselves and other people not liking those words that they choose to identify themselves as. Not talking about transgender or anything like that, just generally speaking, how someone chooses to describe themselves, somebody else having a problem about that. When you use those things to describe yourself, you're not actually describing yourself, you're describing what group you fit into. That's not describing yourself.
I don't know where this is going, but I have to argue just on the point that I think as human beings, if we define ourselves in a certain way, we have to be prepared for that to be challenged. So if I walk into a bar, I don't go to bars anymore, but if I were to walk into a bar and say I'm the best pool player in here, now if that's how I self-identify, that's fine. Now if no one challenges me, I can go on with that illusion. But maybe I can prove it. And maybe then I am the best pool player in there.
Well, listen, you may be the best pool player in there.
I can beat you at chess. But I can beat you at chess, though.
If that's your identifier, you walk around saying, I'm the best pool player. That's who I am. I'm the best pool player.
Sure. What does that do for you?
What are you?
No.
You're just the best pool player.
You're the person who claims to be the best pool player.
Well, yeah. reality is it's just something that exists. That's not who you are.
Anyway, yeah, I sidetracked us a little bit there.
No, I was the one going on for a rant.
But yeah, no. Identify your tools. Don't let your tools define you. Define your tools. Don't let your tools define you. Right.
All right. So I'm gonna re-go over the three things: the types of toolkits. We discussed some bonsai toolkits, but most importantly, we wanted to talk about like just in general toolkits for life. There's different things that come up in life. Your interest should determine what your toolkit is. The things that you do determine. I can't tell you what that toolkit is, but what I can tell you is how to find that toolkit.
I think we should re-emphasize that a toolkit containing tools. The tools don't necessarily need to be physical objects.
No,
they can be strategies. They can be mantras. They can be physical actions. They can be people. They might be places. It might be a particular food. It might be a particular book or a movie or a particular piece of music that does some specific thing for you.
Yeah, whatever. Because, like I said, I've used music. I've used books. I've used a lot of different things as tools. Specifically, music. Music's helped me through some rough spots, man. Honestly, that's probably been the most versatile tool that I have. Is music. The ability to make it and the ability to receive it. So being able to have something like that in my life, I just hope other people can find things like that. But the ability to have something there that everybody has access to, and those vibrations and those sounds, they make me feel a certain way.
I missed a joke. I said even I was going to say even counseling can be a tool. Even a counselor is a tool.
All counselors are tools.
All counselors are tools. Now we know how I feel about counseling or going to counseling.
Yeah, stinking head doctors. No, so the types of toolkits, reality is your interest decides what your toolkits are. The things that you do, your life decides what your toolkits are. How to acquire those tools for those toolkits, you have to experience things. You have to go through things. You have to figure it out. You have to gain knowledge. I think knowledge is the best way to be able to determine tools.
You know what? I don't know why, but my mind drifted onto the idea that this could be pretty good advice for wannabe assassins. So we're just giving advice on doing wet work. Just need experience.
This is good, solid advice for choosing.
Go out there and try different.
It's like the journal. You have the journal. You're writing down everything. You're reading it. You're like, damn, I think I'm a serial killer.
See what works for you. Yeah.
It's like all that's missing now is the murder.
Just put it into action. Stop all the talk.
Stop all the talk. Put to action what you've been thinking about doing.
Yes.
Okay. As long as society's partially accepting of it. I don't think murdering people's societally accept. Well, unless you're doing it for the state.
If you're getting paid by the state to do it, then murdering's fine.
As long as the government's paying you, it's okay.
Yeah, and also there's obviously degrees of okay or fine. If it's over here,
and that's not to imply that it's okay for police officers to kill people.
Well, yeah, it's more acceptable if it's further away. I think it's distance is like there's some correlation between like how far away it is from our actual borders. That is.
Oh dear Lord Almighty! So the types of toolkits, again, discussed that already. How to acquire those toolkits is going to be by attaining knowledge and going out and doing things and figuring out what works best for you.
Not going to Walmart and buying one of those baby blue or pink home repair kits.
Listen, if you need to hammer a nail, don't go buy a vacuum. I mean, just saying. Like, that doesn't make any sense, I know, but people do that all the time. You need to go do something, but instead you go buy a TV. Right? It's like prioritize what you actually need to do. What purpose is it serving? Is it so that you can relax? What the fuck have you done to relax? Anyways, not going to get into all of that. But then the other thing is your relationship with your tools. I don't think you should allow your tools to identify who you are. Right? Who you are is a core of like that's you. That's uniquely you. Okay, so you can't use these things that you do to identify who you are. Who you are is why that person does those things, right? But those things do not make you who you are. Who you are does those things, okay? Right. That's very clear. So if you're mad at yourself, you're doing all this stuff, I can't get anything right. Think about the person inside making those decisions, is doing those things, right? David side-eyed me. Think about the person inside that's making those decisions, because clearly you don't think that is you, but that is you that's making those decisions, that's putting that out in the world, that's doing those things. You're identifying as those things that you're putting out, but that's not who you are. Who you are is inside. That inside is what's putting out those things. So you got to take a look at the inside and see who the person is inside, because the inside projects outwardly. And that's the only way that it works.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're getting a bunch of negative energy around you, you might want to consider the negative energy you're putting off.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's when people say, classic, oh, you know what, I don't have very many friends because people are they're just not friendly. They're just not agreeable. Like,
Maybe it's the voice inside your head telling you that they're not agreeable.
Guess what? Guess who's not agreeable?
Yeah. So I'm going to get onto the reading
Mm-hmm.
that we had that you read earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I got it right here. You ready for it?
Hit me.
This is by Rudyard Kipling. Yeah, Rudyard Kipling. And this is If. And this is an excerpt from it. If you can dream and not make your dreams your master. If you can think and not make your thoughts your aim. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools.
Dang, I thought I felt the ghost of Teddy Roosevelt pass by.
It felt that way, right?
Yeah.
The one thing that I want to point out about this when you read it earlier is it definitely was very fitting for this episode. With us talking about watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. It really made a lot of sense for the way that you described how, the old tools didn't work no more. The old tools were only going to do so much, and to get beyond that, you were going to need better tools, different tools. Maybe not better, different.
Different usually.
Different. Yes. I think that's a relative word. Better. Better is better subjective.
Better suited, more suitable.
More suitable for the situation at hand. Yeah, tools that would better do that job. So, what do you think of that reading?
Well, I have a fairly long relationship with this particular piece.
Go for it.
So, If by Rudyard Kipling. So it opens with, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming on you. And then the finishing line is, then you're a man, my son. So it basically goes through these whole various scenarios of how your life can mess up and how you could deal with it. And if you do deal with it appropriately, then you can call yourself an accomplished person, an accomplished adult. So first encountered this in school, obviously, English literature lesson. And, so we dissected this thing.
The shit you had in school was way better than the shit I had in school, bro. I'm going to be honest with you.
I'm telling you, man, I was lucky. I was really lucky at some of the schools I went to. Seriously. Blessed. So yeah, and initially this was to me a guidance of how I should try to shape my character. How I should equip myself to deal with the world. So it was very, very important, emotional, deep. And I'm surprised it took me that long to dig it out. We went through a bunch of potential readings.
Some silly ones, some really silly ones.
But yeah, it's the thing about tools, and really that whole paragraph is about what you're trying to achieve and how you go about that. And how you respond when it doesn't go according to how you planned.
How you adjust to the variables. How do you adjust to the variables?
How do you adjust the variables? Yeah, because they're worn out tools. So you've already gone and done the job once, and now you have to do it again. But you're worn out. The tools are worn out.
Tools are worn out. You're tired.
You still have to do the same job though. So yes, how do you adapt?
How do you overcome that? Listen, this was an interesting episode to put together because this is something, I don't know, I think that is a backbone and a staple of how we operate. Everything is a tool for us, like with what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So essentially, at first it wasn't. Here's the thing. For a little while, it was just kind of like, let's see what this does. It wasn't even like tools. It was just like curiosity. Let's see what this does. Let's see what that does. Let's see what this does.
Poke it with a stick.
But once we identified what we were actually trying to do, man, the tools just showed up.
Yeah, poke it with some driftwood.
Yeah, well, the thing is we had tried a bunch of things we thought might work, and it turns out some of those were the things that we needed to do, but until we had identified a goal, it didn't matter.
Yeah, it was like finding a really nice, let's say, a really nice trim plane, like a hand plane, but specifically for trim. Finding really nice. It's like made of walnut, It's got brass, all the brass screws, and the plane is shiny, and it's like it's over $150, and it's wonderful. And yeah, but what for? What, are you doing trim? Well, you know,
It's a good deal, man. It's on sale for 25 off.
sure. But do you really need it? Is that a useful tool to you?
I might one day.
Well, yeah, but when you come around to doing that, you'll know that.
I might one day turn into hoarders.
Several of them?
I might one day turn into hoarders. Those people that I might one day. I might need that one day.
Oh yeah.
I might, they have the potential to turn into hoarders.
I definitely have that affliction that I do see the potential in almost everything.
You at least hide the stuff you got, though.
I hide it well.
Listen, he builds boxes under his bed to hide his things under his bed.
Shh, don't tell him where my junk is.
It's a Murphy bed, bro. You you walk into your house and you can see it.
I'll put the bed down.
But when you sleep, it's gone.
Yep. No one knows when I'm asleep.
Anyways, guys, so if you want to check us out on buymeacoffee.com/driftwood, DRYFTWOD, all of the social medias at the Driftwood Podcast, or Instagram and Facebook. Really, we don't really mess with the other ones.
Well, check out Buy Me a Coffee for more exciting.
I did that.
Driftwood adventures.
Yeah. Specifically, Buy Me a
Bonsai
Coffee.
adventures.
If you want to keep up with the things that we are doing, we're really doing stuff. I'm not kidding about it. We're really doing stuff. If you want to keep up with the stuff that we're doing, you don't want to miss the Buy Me a Coffee, because that's where all of our stuff is going to be at. That's not on the social medias. There's going to be a lot more stuff on there than anywhere else until we can get the website doing the way that we want it. That's probably going to be the source of where we post things. And we'll have videos and all that stuff up there for our adventures, for the bonsais, for all of the other things. I got some really cool stuff that I want to try to do if I can convince David to let me explode stuff. So
we're back to this again.
Oh yeah, we're always going to get back to this, man. It's the Driftwood way. So we keep going to drift against the bank until we finally sit up on the bank.
Right.
Yeah, I just made that off the top of my head.
Right.
Obvious, right?
I just realized we didn't talk about John Carpenter's They Live.
Ooh.
The whole getting people to read the code, or giving people the tools to read the code and the glasses. Yeah, anyway, if y'all haven't seen the movie John Carpenter's They Live with Rowdy Roddy Piper, the wrestler.
Boom. You know what we're doing, David?
What's that?
I think we're going to be doing this on a real soon episode. We're just going to do a whole
Watch
episode
party?
about that movie.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to do a whole we're going to watch that movie.
Yeah.
We're going to take notes, and then we're going to record right after we watch it.
We can have a Facebook watch party.
I think we can have a Facebook. Let's see if we can
I
set that
don't
up.
know
If you know
how
how that shit works, let
I
us
don't know.
know. We'll try and figure it out too, because that might be something fun to do. And then we can have a live stream where we discuss it.
Yeah, I don't have the tools for that.
Yeah, I don't have the tools for it either. Anyways, guys, love you. Check us out on all the social medias. We're the Driftwood Podcast. I'm Daniel the Wizard. We got
Fox, as usual. We're out.
all right, guys. Love you.